As always.
Take 96.
Right. Hey folks, Aaron here from Getty's Tactical. Welcome to another episode. I'm really excited today for this particular video because we are here with Peter Kohler from Dark Timber. Peter, what are we doing here today?
So first I want to start by saying last night was Veterans Day. Congratulations, Eric Barton, on winning that free knife build. You guys, thanks so much for everything that you do for us. My wife was, in support of me making that knife, and I'm going to be doing that every year. So I just want to say thank you first. I know it's going to be late by the time this video gets out. Today we're in my, this is actually the big shop. So this is actually the shop that belongs to my blacksmithing master, and I've got free reign. His name's Dan McNeil. Whenever I do a more complex project, this is where we're going to be whenever it takes two people. We're working on axes right now. I'll let that cat out of the bag. We're going to be putting out a run of about 50 axes here in the near future. We just got our handles in, so pretty excited about it. Nice. But when we do a project like that where it takes two people, he's got years of built equipment stored here. We have a coal fire behind us. This is like if I'm using the coal to forge, I will do it. A lot of times now, if I'm doing a bigger knife, which I really like to do, I use a gas fire with a bigger oven because I can get heat over a longer span. We also have a gas oven back here. This will come out. It's not coming out right now, and I don't want to mess with it. But so we've got gas and coal. We have a Little Giant, which is a power hammer. I don't do very much on the power hammer simply because I think I get a different product when I hammer it by hand. We also have a hydraulic press back here that you guys don't see. It's a little too small to do much with in the form of like Damascus steel or any type of real pressing with that. You need a roller to do those. But that's all planned out in the future, and we got a number of other tools that we use. So this is this shop, and then I have a shop up at my house that's basically my grinding station, and also has another anvil, another set of forging equipment.
And everything you would need, basically.
Everything I need to make a knife right there, I can do it. This is when we want to get a little bit more intense with it. We have a good time.
Cool. Well, with that being said, recently Peter and I had the opportunity with a couple of our other buddies to go up on just a weekend camping trip up into the mountains. We stayed up at about 10,000 feet. And spent the night in, over Halloween weekend, basically.
Well, what it was to me was like 13-degree weather.
13-degree weather, basically, overnight. So with that, in this video, really what we want to do is not only just show you just some footage, of that. This isn't really a review at all. This is just, hey, just want to take you along for the ride, basically, of our camping trip, so you guys can kind of feel like you've, gone along with us. And throughout this video, we'll kind of split it up some, and we'll be kind of talking about some things that Peter and I discovered, and just kind of we're talking about on the trip. And hopefully, this will just be a fun, adventure for you guys to come along with Peter and I and our buddies on our recent camping trip. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and see where we were and what we were doing.
1 on 4.
Back. Ready? You do you? No, I'm doing you. Whoa! Ridiculous. Are you ready? You're ready. Gideon, are you ready? No, Aaron is not ready. Gideon is, though. 1-on-1. Peter, ready? Ready? 1-on-1. 1-on-4. 2-on-3.
some of the footage that you guys just saw was a bunch of run and gun that we did. We took several firearms up and did a lot of running and gunning testing, as well as just practicing, with our firearms. And there's something that we got to say right out of the gate to just kind of like get off our chest.
So just for the record, and I don't know if he'll watch this, if you guys don't watch Nothing Fancy, people have varying opinions on that. Watching his run and guns and watching his videos, they do enlighten both knife makers and I think reviewers alike,
absolutely,
and give you ideas. So we're not trying to take credit for creating the run and gun. As a matter of fact, I think we directly stole it from Nothing Fancy.
We're like, what did he do?
What did he do? And why does it work? And it really is awesome. So if you guys take the idea of a run and gun and go and play on it, you should, because there's a ton of information that you can hone from it.
And you really learn a lot about yourself as well as your firearm in those situations when you are, it's one thing just to be standing, at a range and bam, 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 and, static targets, you're static and, whatever. It's a totally different animal when you're running around, your heart's beating, and you got to get a shot off real fast, and your footing isn't quite secure. Basically real life, how you would actually be using your firearm in a life and death situation. It's a totally different feel than when you're at the range. I mean,
it's a totally different thing, and you might find out that you hate the gun you got or you love the gun you got. So in my case, I was carrying the SIG P320. Nothing did not like that in his review. I thought it was the best full-size pistol I've ever shot. Out of all the guns that were there, it was my favorite to shoot. I loved it. I loved the trigger on it. I loved everything about it. I also was carrying my concealed carry, which is the Ruger LC9. And I won't swear on this video for Aaron's sake, but I did not like that whatsoever. The trigger pull on it, just the reset on it, it is not a gun where I would feel great trying to get more than one round off, in a dangerous situation.
Right. And then for me, I was using a Gen 3 Glock 21, 45 caliber. I love that gun. It's basically like
some say the most beautiful gun ever made.
Or not. Fell off the ugly tree and hit every branch going down. Yeah. But either way, I mean, it's super simple, super easy to use, and very accurate. I mean, I just really like the accuracy on it. I mean, it's a full-size gun, but for full-size, shooting, I mean, it's if you got the hand size for it, I think that's one of the things, that came away with is depending on your hand size, as most of you know, I got large-size hands.
And I have little bitch hands.
Then it's great. If you have small hands, it may not be the best. So we did that. We used some shotguns. We did that. But for the most part, the running gun were pistols.
Right. And the big lesson, I think, in it, because this was the first time I'd done it, was when you have someone yelling off a target and then how many shots you got to put on it, and it's changing all the time, being comfortable with the firearm is really important. So, there's a lot of like subcompact talk and a concealed carry weapon talk that goes on YouTube. And for me, I almost want the biggest gun I feel comfortable carrying, and I'm sure that's been said on many other reviews, because when I use the bigger gun, I put the shots on target. And that also has to do with my lack of training.
Right.
But for a beginner, you might feel more comfortable. Just like a lot of guys say, big knives are for guys that are beginners on knives. I don't totally agree with that. I disagree, actually. But they'll say as they get better, they can use a smaller knife better, and I can see where that comes in. And I think the same goes maybe for guns.
With a firearm, correct. And that's the last thing to just kind of wrap this portion up, is that, both Peter and I are rookies. I mean, we're not saying that we know what we're doing when it comes to firearms. We're learning, but that was an extremely good learning experience for both of us, having that run and gun experience. So we're encouraging you guys to get out there, try and find a location where you can set up some targets and, go with a buddy, obviously be as safe as possible, please, but, to be able to get out there and actually test real life scenario stuff and try and make it as difficult as possible to get a round on target will help you in the long run if you ever are in that life and death situation. So with that being said, let's go ahead and hop to the next set of footage and see what happens.
What did you say the question was? Or should people be using these as axes?
Can a knife of that size and weight chop like an axe?
Watch you might want to be careful here. Yes.
That chops better than this, or for sure.
This is mine. This is not for sale. So, so what I was saying is that if I'm gonna actually do delimbing, I'm not really gonna use my knife blade because I'm not gonna waste it if I don't have to. So the back spine of a knife, or even your axe, should be what you're clearing limbs off with, if you can. I don't know your thoughts on that.
Totally agree. We talked about that in the past. How that really helps save your edge. Just think about how you're using your tool and how you can better, use your tool. I mean, it's absolutely fun to use the edge of, regardless if it's your axe or your blade. Don't get me wrong, but the less resharpening you have to do, the longer you can save your blade edge, the better.
Well, and it's energy, right?
Right.
If it's just going to be quicker to
Right.
use the hammer or spine end of something, you're gonna think I'm funny, but this takes, to me, more energy to swing, and I'm not sure that it's. Yeah, it's definitely. It's just easier. You want to get on it?
Yeah.
I mean, the wood is flying as fast or faster than that Grand Sports, right? That D-guard getting your pinky?
Crazy impressive though.
No, it's go barehanded. Dude, look at the wood flying from that.
ridiculous.
Okay, do you want to get your Grand Force now and see your Grand Force in action with it?
I'll tell you that even my grizzly doesn't chop like that.
Well, it's the difference between 8 and 11 inches
Right.
on a blade.
Right.
But you can make an 11-inch blade feel light, though. This
Right.
blade does not feel like
No, when you're holding it, not at all.
Dark Timber Bowie. Owned only by Peter Kohler and never for sale. Okay, Grants Force Brooks.
Husqvarna.
Or this Husqvarna, excuse me. Okay, so how much, for the weight, how much extra depth are you getting on that chop?
Knife for some reason.
Well, it comes down to you got to lift 2 pounds every time you do that, right? Let's corner that. There it is. There it is.
Now that's a massive knife, but that thing is competing, if not doing better than that axe.
And it's meant to replace that axe
Right,
too.
right.
So
that otherwise wouldn't watch or care, whatever.
and then otherwise you just don't know.
Right.
All right, so now as you guys were kind of seeing throughout that video portion, we were talking a lot about hatchets and axes versus large knife theory and how they, either work together, don't work, and it was really interesting to see particularly a very large Bowie versus a very well-known Husqvarna, hatchet that's got some good weight to it and is definitely a good hatchet, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. I think I believe it's made by I can't remember. I know a well-known axe company is making it right now. I'm totally pulling a blank off the top of my head for Husqvarna, but
It'll be at the bottom of the
right.
screen.
I'll connotate it in right now. Anyway, but with that being said, I mean, we were pretty impressed, right, Peter?
Yeah, but I wasn't totally surprised, and so first I want to say that my abilities with an axe are nowhere near my abilities with a knife. And I do appreciate guys that use axes, and I do think that they're a special and very needed tool out in the woods. But I think duration of your trip and what your environment is going to be plays a huge part on what tool you take. So one thing I think we noticed right off the bat, and this is not new news to guys that watch reviews, is that it takes more energy to swing this. So even if it chops faster,
Right.
you have to use more energy to get that thing in that chopping motion. Now, there might be a technique that helps to alleviate that. And I would, in the comments, that'd be awesome if you guys can share with us that so we can maybe give it a try. But with a large knife, especially if you've got one from someone that put the time to balance it.
Right.
So balance
That's
is
huge.
important.
That is huge. I want to hit on that what he just said. Balance is huge. Just because you have this big monster blade does not mean it's going to necessarily chop well or even better than an axe. It may not. In fact, it may be rather pathetic in compared to other, knives or hatchets that are out there. So it really depends on
And handle.
Yeah.
If you've got a big knife but the handle's too small, or there's not enough hook on it that where you feel safe and comfortable and it's just going to keep slipping back, that's not going to work either. Yeah. The right large knife is going to do those jobs. I do baton. So when we go out in the woods, there's guys I've seen on threads on the internet, and they're like, I never baton, I never need a large knife. And I'm like, man, that's awesome. I don't know what environment you're in, but we were in the mountains.
Rocky Mountains, you have to.
You got a lot of wood to process. So you need to have enough fire to sustain overnight when it's that cold out there, and to feel safe and good. Even if the fire goes out, you want to feel safe. So we're going through a ton of wood and fuel. A large knife's going to be able to do all that batoning, break it all down, get it dry. If it's wet at all, you got to have that center piece of wood
to dry out. And I hear that a lot as well. And that's fine if you don't baton with your knife. Great, God bless you, and have a great time with your blades. And you use an axe to split everything. Awesome, that's fantastic. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's definitely people who know what they're doing and have the right tool and right axe to do that. Awesome, that's fantastic. But if you don't have that, and I will say that batoning for the most part is way safer than trying to split with an axe. It's just my experience. If you don't you're new to the outdoors, you're new to bushcrafting and camping, survival, all that type of stuff, then batoning is obviously going to be way safer. If you and a lot less likely to hurt yourself doing that. Excuse me, my phone's going off.
In that same breath, though, I will say this. If you're going to have a base camp, if you're a hunter and you're going to go out and have a base camp, and you're carrying up a ton of heavy gear anyways, and weight is not the issue, a larger axe that's going to chop wood.
Two-handed.
Anything you can get two hands on. The hatchets, and like I said, I would like to learn more about hatchet use. But for something that you can only get one hand on, that's going to wear you out. If I'm going to set up a base camp, I'm going to bring up a larger axe. Maybe not a full-size axe, but
like
a camp axe, a boy's axe. Two hands, and I'm going to chop wood that way. And I might forego my big knife, but as a knife lover for life, I probably will have one on me anyways just for fun.
Right. And to wrap up that whole batoning thing is when the wood is wet, and we live in the Rockies, so we got snow in the winter, we got rain in the summer, and if that wood is not broken apart and let out in the air, it's going to be sopping wet, and we're never going to get a fire going. But you split that in half, you let it sit for 10 minutes out in the open air, bam, you're good to go, and you can really get a fire going. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and keep on trucking. You guys.
Let me just say this: if you want to see more about that, you also should watch the YouTube review. Why big knives don't suck. If you haven't seen that, it's an old school review.
Buy nothing fancy.
Everybody should watch that video, and this one too. But that that's an inspirational video for guys that are looking for tools.
All right, let's go ahead and hop back out there.
This handle actually isn't as bad as I thought it would when I'm doing this type of stuff.
With that jimping.
Because I'm past it.
Yeah.
The
and some people are going to really want that jimping.
But it's painful, man. Even if they did it where it was just softer. That bites in like a mother, though.
Jimping just never really does it for me.
I basically moved completely away for it, particularly on my fixed blades.
Which is funny because I get the concept and I think it should work, but it in theory, but for me it just doesn't work.
And shredded, particularly shredded.
That's why I've always thought that tape is kind of a cool idea.
The hockey tape?
Yeah. Not the hockey tape, the
Electrical tape?
No. Just on the spine you take skateboard tape.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Something like that would be good.
Yeah, and it's just like a light
Right,
jimping, so I've always
right.
thought that would be a...
Sorry, I thought you were talking about.
All right, guys, so you just saw kind of the discussion, and the audio wasn't fantastic on that, but about jimping. And we were really talking about jimping, and at the time I was using the Baja 4.5 from Tops, which is a great knife. We did a full review on it. You can go check that out in our Tops playlist. But there's a lot of jimping on the knife, and we were really talking about pros and cons of jimping. You know, there are definitely some pros, there's definitely some cons though. And to kind of start this off, when I first got into blades, I was heavy into jimping. I was like, yeah, I love jimping. I want it on all my blades. If it doesn't, I don't like it. But as I progress, and this is the thing, you know, as you use your tools, you need to get out there. What I'm trying to say is you need to get out there and use your tools. You will discover what you like and what you don't like. I mean, we're just trying to give you the best opinions we can, you know, share with you our opinion.
As some people say, your mileage
may vary.
So
right.
when it comes to jimping, in theory, it should totally, every knife should have jimping. In theory.
In theory.
Because it should be a place, like I've got a Bark River Bravo 3 here. I don't know where. You can see that it's jimped right here and it has a thumb ramp. So, you know, that should be a place where your thumb kind of rests up on and it stops your fingers from moving. For me, it doesn't really work on this knife. And for me, it doesn't almost ever work on any knife. Because I feel like if the handle is made properly and it's holding your hand in place, you really, I mean, I'm not really sliding on the top of that spine of that knife anyways.
And with that, you know, the more aggressive the jimping, the more painful it becomes. And if you're using particularly a knife that you're going to be using a lot and it's going to be in your hand for maybe, you know, an hour, 2 hours, you're doing lots and lots of particularly woodwork, it can really start to thrash your hand and you're really regretting holding that knife in your hand. And so it's really tricky to find like good jimping.
The right
it's out
jimping.
there, right.
If you're wearing a glove, which most guys will wear a glove the whole time,
Right.
that might change things for you. You
Right.
might actually enjoy having that there because it's got your glove gripping better.
Right.
I just don't find that I ever really need it. On some videos that are out there, you know, pre-mentioned people,
Right.
they put a little strip of skateboard tape,
Right.
and that is like a traction that I get.
That's a good idea.
It makes sense to me. But when you start to put those big lines into the back of the knife, for me, it's always hurt. Another place where I've always thought jimping would be good is in fire steels. When you're using a fire steel, because you've got multiple ridges,
Right.
and you can make just those edges sharp, not necessarily the jimping itself.
Yeah.
And it's going to make it easier to spray sparks. However, I have not done it. You know, I have not tested that theory.
Right, but that's again another theory, and that's really what it comes down to when we're talking about jimping is the theory of it. Now I'm going to give you again my opinion on it after having used lots and lots of knives. The less jimping, the better. That's my opinion, and I prefer, and I'm always looking particularly on my fixed blades and how I use and how I deploy my fixed blades, I prefer no jimping. That's who I am. Your mileage, again, may vary.
Hot topic.
Yes.
You guys deserve to be able to use jimping if you like it.
Right. Yeah, and that's fine. I'm not saying like, oh, you use jimping, you're an idiot. I'm not saying that at all. Because in theory, it should work. So in theory, if it works for you, awesome. It doesn't really work for me, and I'm always looking for knives that don't have jimping versus that do have jimping. So that's with that kind of, wrapping it up. Do you have anything else you want to kind of touch on with jimping?
No,
Okay.
that's it.
So hopefully that just kind of helps you guys think through your purchasing decisions, and again, ultimately getting out there, using your products to decide whether or not you do or do not like jimping.
So we're going to wrap this up, guys. I just wanted to take some time to personally say thank you. I'm not someone that you're going to see a lot on wanting to talk on video just because it makes me feel uncomfortable, but the support that I get from the knife community is amazing. I love it. Even from guys that don't really like my work, they still are cool and still show me appreciation, and I want to say thank you for that. While I've got the opportunity, I think the one thing you can hone from some of these conversations is it doesn't matter what somebody else likes. It's about what you like
Right.
and what your style is, and as long as you're getting out into nature, I'm a archer, I'm a bow hunter, and that's how I got my start into cutlery. And knives just bring me closer to that. The guns and the knives are secondary to actually being able to be outside and enjoy nature and enjoy what's going on, and to pass that down to my kids. And I think that is an important culture, that this group, this knife culture that we breed, is that we're passing down information and knowledge to people that are younger than us, and it's really necessary. So thanks for letting me be a part of that with you, and thanks to all the guys that buy Dark Timber Custom Knives. Your support is huge for my family. I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you for it.
And you know, kind of with that, I mean, it's just awesome to be able to do this. We're going to try to be doing more videos like this in the future here at the channel, where we take you out, you know, we're on a camping trip, we're on a hiking trip for the day, I mean, whatever, and talk a lot more about theories and just kind of discussion stuff that we're discovering, because we're always learning things. I'm always learning things here at the channel, guys. Things that maybe I thought were totally cool a couple of years ago, and realizing, wow, that wasn't as cool, because I got out there and used it some more and realized, wow, that wasn't, you know, the best firearm that I thought, or the best pack, or the
like
best,
when you call
whatever.
my Grizzly the white Ferrari instead of the red
Ferrari instead of the red Ferrari. You know, I mean, those type of things. So you can expect some more videos, you know, like that, and you can expect to see Peter from time to time. I mean, it's a great friendship that has come out of, you know, this channel, and you'll see him from time to time on the channel. I know he doesn't like to be on film very often. He might be behind the camera, you know, or whatever. But anyway, so guys, I just hope that this video has helped you out with all of your learning and, you know, outdoor activities. As always, check us out on all the relevant social media. The links are in the description below. Please subscribe, comment, like, share this video. Love to hear your guys' thoughts on these topics we've been talking about today. And as always, remember, stay equipped, stay prepared. We'll see you out there.